Welcome to the Cultivating Success podcast. Jeff Sophir and Jonathan Wolfson are brothers and business partners of the top landscaping company, Nature's Experts. Nature's Experts is home to 6 companies that cater to all your outdoor needs. To learn more about Jeff and Jonathan, simply visit us at www.naturesexperts.com. On the podcast, Jeff and Jonathan bring together other business owners and entrepreneurs to share with you how they developed a prosperous company and how you can too. You will gain insights and meaningful advice on creating the building blocks to success and longevity in the entrepreneurial realm. And now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sophir and Jonathan Wolfson.
Matthew, welcome to the Cultivating Success podcast. We're excited to have you here today.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, guys. Happy to be here.
It's exciting to, meet different people through, our experience of, starting this podcast and starting to really understand different types of business development, different types of, understanding business and just ultimately putting yourself out there. It's really exciting for us to kind of just, take a different look and a different perspective of meeting new people. And the thing is, sometimes you get in a little bit of a proverbial rut where you're like, hey, I always use this person. I always, want to make sure I always, keep this person. And, I'm thinking about what you do with lending and funding and everything like that, and how, it really is a moving target. So it's not something that you really can stay static with even the same person all the time. It just sometimes is easier.
But I know where you're going with that because we have stuck with the same person. Why don't you let Matthew introduce himself so everybody knows who we're talking to here?
That works too.
Sure. Well, I'm not the other guy. I'm this guy. My name is Matt Cohen. I'm the president of Noble Funding, and been arranging business loans and lines of credit for our clients 17 years now, a little over 17 years since 2005. So that's what I do all day, every day. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, it is definitely a very, very important part of growth, development, security, and really having all the resources it takes to run a successful business, because you don't know when you're going to need something until you need it. And the problem is when you need it, it's not available.
Right. And you need it like immediately. A lot of times people don't want to get caught with their pants down.
Not from a bank. It's not immediately available. No.
So let me ask you, are you a liaison between the client and you select a bank or lending institution for the right client, or you only represent specific lenders? And so it's just you pick from a few of those and that's it. Like, how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of what we do, so, trial and error over the last 17 years built up a very large network of lenders that we use. It's banks, it's non-bank lenders, it's asset-based lenders, it's cash flow-based lenders. We're talking senior secured like a bank would be, or junior to a bank senior. So all those things.
Is it private equity and private money also, or all banks?
No, so all debt, so no equity. But yeah, a lot of these lenders are what you would consider private, sort of non-bank lenders. They're lenders, but you wouldn't really know them unless you were sort of in the biz, so to speak.
Interesting, which is unconventional, because typically when you think of lending, you think of institutional lending, where you go in, you fill out your paperwork, so on and so forth.
Endless paperwork.
Endless paperwork. Yeah, that's the SBA is endless paperwork, and so you have the SBA, which is endless, and then bank, which is a little bit less than that, and then the non-bank lenders a little less than that.
We have a relationship with someone who's similar to you. I think John would agree, though, that the person that we have a relationship with that's similar is, at first the relationship was, he couldn't do enough for us, was serviced us, and was very, very had a wonderful customer experience, and now he's, as you'd think he would have gotten better at it or care more about all the business we've given him, and he doesn't. And he seems to, the relationship has grown a little stale.
Okay.
Would you agree, John?
Well, we'll breathe some fresh life into that, and into the Noble Funding route. And
do you agree with me, John, or no?
Get into that.
I agree in the sense that, I think that you constantly have to be applying pressure to ensure that you're still getting the desired result that you want. Because if you just take whatever you get, you're not going to get what you really want. You're just going to get something.
What does that have to do with what I'm saying about, he doesn't really service us as good as he used to?
Well, it's a need and a want thing. So there's not much to service in between until you need something, right, and when you want something.
Right.
So the amount of service after you actually perform the service there's not so much value you can bring.
Yeah.
I think that for what Jeff is more mentioning is understanding when you pop open the hood and now we're, addressing the parts and the value of the parts that were connected, they're not quite as valuable.
Right.
I think with your particular situation, you're connecting unconventional people with unconventional options that can give them better results or it can give them results that they might not have actually had even as an option because of whatever their particular financial situation is.
Yeah, I mean, we use some banks, we use some non-banks, we use some low interest rate lenders, high interest rate lenders. I mean, ultimately, it's my job to analyze, tax returns, financial statements, bank statements, and most importantly, what they have in place currently. That can be a maze in and of itself to sort of navigate and sort of unwind a little bit, like, okay, well, what do you have in senior and then junior and then other types of funding that we might need to pay off or pay down or layer in beneath or pay off. So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle there, and everybody's a little different. So that's why oftentimes a consultant like myself is valuable, because I know which roads to travel down and what will work and what won't work with what they have in place already.
It's the collecting of all the information is really where definitely a lot of the value is, because it just takes a lot to get it all situated. So to backtrack a little bit, I want to kind of go into how you actually got started in the actual funding business. So you started 17 years ago, and starting 17 years ago, why did you pick to say, I want to get into helping connect business owners and people with ways of getting access to better options of money? Because that's ultimately what you're doing, is that you're not just saying like, I use whatever bank, so I'm just going to go to my bank and get a loan. It might be the best option, but it's more of a coin toss. It's not the best option. The best option is understanding what the market is, because I've found myself that these banks, they have different initiatives, and their initiatives change and their directives change, and the types of lending that they want to do changes.
Yeah, so I have a lot of friends in the industry, right? As far as their bankers, their asset-based lenders, their factors, their cash flow-based lenders, and we've become friendly from having done a lot of business together. But ultimately, my loyalties lie with my clients, right? I have to do the best for my client. I have a fiduciary responsibility to them. So to me, I go where it best serves my clients. So I can't just go to one bank or one series, one group of lenders because I like them and we've done business together before. I'm really, devoted to our client and making sure that they're getting the best deal the marketplace has to offer. So definitely, I spread the wealth, and sort of, each financial package paints a picture. I see the picture and I sort of go in that direction. But going back to your original question, sort of what got me into this, my father was actually in the wallpaper business, designing wallpaper, having it manufactured, and started with him for a little while. I thought that was the family business with my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father. And
oh, wow.
I just felt like I was sort of, not very good
at
it.
It was part of your lineage.
Part of my lineage was wallpaper. Yeah. I wasn't very good at it. And B, I just felt like I was sort of just taking money from what my father was making. And I said, Dad, I don't think this is working out. I said, I really want to be in finance. He goes, well, what part of finance? I said, well, I don't know what part of finance, because I'm 22 years old at the time. I said, but I know I don't want to be a stockbroker, but I want to be in finance. And a few years later, I was looking, I'm dating myself a little bit. I was actually looking at a newspaper, do the want ads, and not, a website or anything like that. And there was an ad that said, make money selling money. I said, oh, wow, interesting. Make money selling money. So I got an interview and I got hired at a company about 20 people, and they did sort of very small business loans through banks. And I started out as a sales guy there. And, the first few weeks, it's sort of, fake it till you make it. I knew enough to be dangerous, but I didn't really know. And then through trial and error, quickly became kind of their top sales person there. I got promoted into the consulting division, which was sort of one step above sales. And ultimately, there was 4 owners, worked my way up to number 5 in the organization within, less than a year, and just kind of got a crash course in kind of small business loans, and ultimately left there after learned the lesson of hard work, put in a lot of hours, maybe 10 to 12 hours a day. But it gave me a great education, not only work ethic, but the industry. And I started Noble Funding in 2005 to be a little bit more up market doing some bigger deals and more relationship driven. They sort of hid behind sort of online applications and things like that. And I said, well, what about all the banks out there that, don't have online applications and that would appreciate the business? So went out on my own, more of a personal touch, maybe a little bit larger transactions. And, and here I am today.
Why the name Noble?
Oh, that's a great question. So I named the company Noble Funding because I want to do good deeds for people. So if you're noble, you do good for people. And ultimately, that's what I wanted to do. And to this day, that's what I care about. And that's one of the reasons we have the A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, with 0 complaints lifetime, is that, everybody likes to make money and that's all well and good, but we're really trying to help people and business owners. I'm a business owner myself, right? So I want to help business owners, and that's what I've done for the last 17 years.
We've looked for different types of funding, different things, and whether it's equipment or properties or businesses and everything like that, the amount you can save and having the right connection versus, your fee, because obviously, your fee is supposed to be on top. I would assume it's how we've had it. It's on top of whatever money that you get. So if you get $1 million, you get a certain percentage on top of that money, correct?
It can, yeah, there's a couple different ways. Sometimes the lenders compensate us, so our clients don't have to. Sometimes, if it's $1 million deal and our fee is 1%, our client nets $990, right? And we get the 10. Sometimes it's $1.010 million and our client nets the $1 million. So it just, there's a few different ways to do it.
Right.
Got it. So, I think that, with lending, I think people sometimes lose track of completing the transaction versus saving money, because there's two different trajectories here. It's great if it's easy to, use your own bank and so on and so forth to just complete the transaction. But what's your rate compared to what you're saving, compared to how lifetime of the loan, compared to how long you actually think you're going to be there for, or hold the property, or until you're going to sell your business, or whatever your particular, path is. And I think some people don't actually analyze that because they're not connected to the right person early enough, and they go through a certain path for a certain period of time where it's so long, where they start to become urgent and excited and just like, it needs to get done, versus being like, listen, it takes time. We need to find the right one. We need to kind of court the banks. You need to tell them about your different businesses, different opportunities, why you see them as good opportunities, to see if like it really is a good marriage.
Yeah, the scenarios are all over the map. Some companies come to us and say, hey, we need $500,000 or $1 million next week. And we have that product. We can move that fast. It's on the more expensive range.
Oh, I bet.
You kind of pay for that speed.
Yes.
Other times, clients, just to your point, Jonathan, they just want the lowest rate and they can wait 3 or 4 months for closing.
I mean, honestly, though, to go that fast, some people, they're willing to pay it because they need the money that fast. And if you can do that, that's a huge service. Like, that's
Absolutely.
a big deal.
I would say
some people need money. They need the fucking money.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%. And they need it
Name
quickly.
the price. I need the money.
And it could be for a good reason. It could be, an inventory buy.
Sure.
It's time sensitive.
Sure.
Or they get a PO from a big customer and the customer says, hey, if you don't fill this in a week, we're going to go on to your competitor. And they go, okay, well, where can we get the, $1 million to, so you do have to pay for the speed. But, nowadays things move really fast in business, probably faster than they ever have. So having those types of products is very helpful. As a matter of fact, we just did one for $3 million the other day.
I don't necessarily agree with you completely. You said today, things move so fast. I really find that they don't. I really
they move slow?
Yeah. I feel like most people, maybe things move fast, but I think you'd agree with me, John. People move really slow, I think. And I think that there's the capability, like you're saying, things move really fast. The capability is there for things to move really fast, but it's the people.
Well, I think they
don't move very fast.
I've got clients, Jeff, exact to your point, where they say, hey, I want this line of credit, it sounds great. And I say, okay, send me these 5 things. And it takes a week or 2.
Right.
And then I send it to the lender and they go, oh, we're very interested. Send us these 7 things and we'll get them a term sheet. And those 7 things, it takes a month or 2. And every week it's, oh, well, next week, or my CFO is really busy, and
then that same person that took that month is now complaining because the bank is taking a month.
It's taking too long.
So it's like everybody's slow. That's what I'm saying.
That
like,
happens.
Everyone is slow.
Yeah, no, I have a transaction right now where, it would be a line of credit through a bank in this case for $7 or $8 million. And, it's just taking a long time. And, I guess they've done some acquisitions, and their CFO and VP of finance are busy, or they're stressed, or whatever the case is. So I just follow up every, 5, 6, 7 business days, and eventually, hopefully good things happen, but it's slow going sometimes.
I think, you're both right. I think things do move fast. The problem is that with, like what you said, if you are getting like an order, right? You're going through negotiating your order to get that order for maybe 6 weeks or a month or whatever. It doesn't just happen. You get one phone call, and then on the one phone call, they're like, we need 100,000 units. And you're like, right, no problem. And then you hang up the phone, and then you call somebody, you're like, I don't have 100,000 units or $100,000 or whatever I need.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that, part of the reason why we wanted to have you on here is to constantly make sure that we are adding value to our listeners by making sure everyone is very strategic and intentional with what they're doing in their business, and to know the right people to call and the right people to be connected with to help grow and develop their business. Whether or not you're ready or not, you do need to reach out, feel comfortable to the right person, know the different options that are out there for lending to help if you have a product or a service or overhead or inventory or buying a new property or absolutely anything. There might be a different person you need for each particular thing, or I think it's so important that obviously people understand the different dynamics that are associated with funding and lending, and short-term loans and long-term loans, and the different options and the best people to be connected with.
By the way, you both see me. I don't know if you both see. I keep yawning. I don't know why. It's not you. I'm not bored with you.
We're not offended.
Yawning. I don't know what the problem is. I figured John might be like, "Are we boring you?" But you're not.
But yeah, no, it's true. I mean, we try to be a one-stop shop, and if for whatever reason we're not, I like to give a quick no and just say, hey, we're not a good fit for this, and here's why. But more often than not, we have a solution.
How do you get business? I mean, besides referrals, you've been around a long time, but how do you really get business? Is there times where business is a little slow? Are there times where there's things that go on with the economy that's slow, or just in general, do you get concerned once in a while if things slow down a little bit? And then what do you do? Like, how do you market, or do you not worry about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, so, and for all the business owners that are listening, everybody's got peaks and valleys, no matter what industry. So we're no different because we work exclusively with business owners. During the summer months, if you're a golfer, you're golfing. If you're a boater, you're boating. If you're a traveler, you're traveling. Out of the 3 summer months, June, July, and August, if we have one big month, which we usually do, that's great. And the other 2 are usually a little slower. April, for whatever reason, is always slow historically. But, demand is usually pretty steady other than, maybe 3 or 4 months out of the year.
In the slow times, do you do marketing? Because it's slower with your actual
always
work,
from a marketing perspective. Sure. So we do get a lot of referrals from past clients, from lenders. That's part of the business. We do some outreach on LinkedIn to other people in our industry. Those could be lenders, those could be investment bankers, mergers and acquisitions guys, etc. And there's really no holy grail to marketing in our business. If there was, I'd just plow it all into that. But I like to say that we do a lot of different things poorly, and you wrap it all up into one, and it seems to work out pretty well. So I wish there was one major thing we could do, but a lot of little things to sort of work out.
So I think it would be really helpful for the listeners to really understand, like, what is the most complicated deal that you've done? And the reason why I say the most complicated, because I feel like if you describe the most complicated or long or interesting or however it is in your particular industry, it makes it, I think, more understandably of like, if this person can help me. Because it certainly isn't just as easy as pick up the phone and then someone gives you money. But it's also not just because you have a bank, you go to your bank and you use that bank, because that's not advantageous either. And, how do you really weigh the different options, but not be intimidated by the process? Because like you said a little bit ago, you might first ask for 5 documents and then you ask for 7 documents, and it's a little bit of work. So I'd like to hear what a good story of what you have that you've gone through.
Well, there's many, 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 many stories over the course of 17 years. But I'd say one of my favorites was, I remember talking to an owner of a commercial janitorial service in California, and he'd had, I think, 3 merchant cash advances, and I don't know how familiar you guys are with those. They're very prevalent nowadays.
Yeah.
Easy money, quick, but the APRs are 30% all the way up to 80%.
Right.
And they're short term, they're high interest, and the problem is that the payments pretty large pretty quickly. So the first thing he said to me was, "I know you can't help me." And I was like a challenge. I said, "All right, well, maybe I can, maybe I can't." And basically, what I was able to do was I was able to use his accounts receivable. So I was able to get a lower rate with an interest-only payment. So that was senior secured. And then turns out he owned an investment property with some equity in it. I left his primary residence alone. I never use a business owner's primary residence. But it was an investment property where my lender did instead of a 6 to 12 month loan, did it was a 3 or 4 year loan, also at a lower rate. So I took all this short-term high interest debt that was really suffocating the cash flow, replaced it with interest only revolver on AR, and then also this term debt secured by the investment property. And it just saved his company, frankly. And it was a big company. He was doing, 12, 13, 14 million a year in revenue. But he was in trouble. He might have gone under.
That's really interesting. And I want to keep hearing more about it. But a point I want to mention to everybody is that, when you are in a spot where you don't really know exactly what to do, you think that there's only one option. And typically it's like, I need X, I need $1 million, right?
Yeah.
And the $1 million is going to cost me $15,000 a month or whatever it's going to cost you. I can't afford to pay $15,000 a month. And you don't think, wait, there is ways I can actually do interest only loans. Yeah. I actually can, make sure that I can, for a year, I can do interest only. And then after a year, if I don't take any money out of my business, if I keep the retained earnings in my business, I'll be able to build up enough money where I can handle paying the 15 or 17 or whatever it might be, for that $1 million. And I think that you really gave some really great, smart, sensible options, especially when somebody's like, in a spot, like you're not thinking typically straight which way you should go and how you should do something, where strategically, like you said, you understand that you don't ever want to use someone's primary residence. You want to protect them from that because you don't ever need to have that additional stress on your business. But also other ways.
Yeah, that's sort of a ground rule for me that, I'll never use a primary residence. It's just not part of the repertoire here, but and he was very appreciative and gave me a great review and recommendation. And there's a lot of stories like that. That one just sort of sticks out. And like going back to the whole noble funding thing, I really do want to do good deeds for people. And when people are in a spot, I do my best to help. I can't always wave the magic wand and do it, but more oftentimes than not, I can certainly improve upon their current situation for sure.
I could definitely see myself. It's really a very interesting business that you're in the sense of you really get to understand all of the different types of businesses, way people make money, the types of money they actually do make, good business owner, bad business owner. And you probably get a sense pretty quickly, be like, I can help this person, or like, this is not a good situation that this person's going to be in probably. And they probably do need to seek alternate ways of, going a different direction, maybe even almost, where I bet you even turn into like a little bit of a counselor.
Yeah, consulting is part of it. Sometimes I'll make little suggestions here and there, and mostly revolving around what I do, but other times
thought of it that way.
We really are a consultancy, but we're also sort of a debt placement service as well. But it doesn't happen overnight. It's trial and error over the course of a long period of time.
Sure.
Where now, I am an expert. Now I am qualified to say, well, have you thought of this or have you thought of that? And as a business owner, you might be an expert in, your retail store, your wholesaler, what kind of service you're providing. You're not really, a debt expert because you're not doing it all day, every day like I am. And oftentimes, I can give I tell clients, I give good free advice sometimes. And I'm happy to do it, anything to help out.
Very interesting. So the types of loans that you really do is you do long-term, short-term, lines of credit, unsecured business loans, asset-based loans, which is, I guess, inventory, right?
So accounts receivable, inventory, machinery and equipment, and real estate are really the 4 main pillars of asset-based lending.
How would people get in touch with you?
So, phone, email, typically.
So what's your number? What's your number? What's your email?
So number 800-916-3196 and website is noblebusinessloans.com. And you can always Google Noble Funding. And if you do, you won't find one negative thing out there about us. The more due diligence you do on Noble Funding, the more comfortable you'll be. And that has to do with, we have about, I think, 179 reviews on Trustpilot, all of which are 5 stars, except 2 or 4 stars. So no 1, 2, or 3 stars.
You gotta call those 2 people and tell them to change them to 5s. What do you got to do for them?
You can't please everybody, right? The A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and you'll
listen.
see
The hotel is still
us.
a nice hotel at 4 stars. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of gorgeous 4-star hotels.
There are, yeah,
almost all 5 stars.
Well, Matthew, it was really great having you on the podcast today. I really enjoyed the story about how you were able to help somebody in their particular need and really give them an unconventional path to success, to really be able to keep somebody in business and to really be able to turn their business around and make it a thriving business. I think that's unbelievable. Again, if you could let everyone know, Matthew, where they could find you. I know it's on noblebusinessloans.com, and your phone number is 800-961-3196. Again, it was awesome having you on here, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
This has been the Cultivating Success podcast with Jeff Sophir and Jonathan Wolfson. To learn more about Jeff and Jonathan and their businesses, visit www.naturesexperts.com.